Most AI offers suck, and in this video, I'm going to show you the only AI offers to my knowledge that are the best to actually sell. Now, AI is in a ton of demand, and that's why there's so many people selling it, which is a good thing. Saturation and more people doing it is a good thing, contrary to popular belief, because it means there's money there. If nobody's selling it, it's because there's no money to be made, right? But a lot of people are struggling to actually sign clients, and so I'm going to go over the ways to format your offer to make sure that you're actually going to be able to sign clients. Now, the reason I can talk about this is my AI business I started from scratch is doing 10 grand a month. It's on pace for it this month so far. And so I literally started it like 2 months ago. And I've been in this space for about 4 years. So I have some insights to give you. If you stick around to the end of this video, you'll know how to structure your offer best to make sure it actually sells. All right. Now, the way that I'm going to answer this is by actually going to the comments of this channel and answering the two questions my boy Micah asked. So let's hit at these, and then hopefully it gives you an example and an idea to base off of for your own offer. So the first question for Micah: when people refer to pay per lead or just I'll get you 10 to 30 leads, what does that mean exactly? Because it could be a simple sign up to a newsletter or someone filling out a type form. I know appointment or an actual booking from a Calendly would be somebody who wants to buy a program, but will hop on a sales call. So before we dive into pay per lead and what that is, think about it like this. I'm selling AI to businesses, and fundamentally in any business, there are 5 components to the business. You have lead generation, you have lead nurture, you have lead conversion, you have lead delivery, and you have lead retention. Those are the 5 components to any business, and you could build an AI offer in any one of those components and buckets. Now, I like to stay within the first 3 buckets. Not saying you have to, I just like to stay there. What are the first 3? Lead gen, lead nurture, lead conversion. That is the actual sales process. That's the marketing and sales to the business. Lead delivery is the fulfillment of the service or product, and lead retention is the upsell or downsell or resell or LTV, lifetime value of the customer, right? So I like to stay on the front end because if I can go and help somebody get X amount of leads or X amount of appointments or X amount of clients, they'll be able to justify the actual investment and the amount of money that I charge. So that's what I like to do personally. Now, to go back to Micah's question here, there are different ways to format the offer to actually get people to get started. The first one that he's mentioning is pay per lead. So on the lead generation side of the business, if you're able to go and build an AI system that can go and get a business more leads, one viable option you could do is to charge that business for each lead that you bring them. Now, with everything in life, there's pros and cons to it. So don't listen to somebody online on YouTube telling you some way to do something and pretending like there's no con to it. Now, I've tried every which way to basically sell an offer. So here's kind of what it looks like. You have pay per lead, which means your client is going to pay you, again, per lead that you bring them. Now, depending on the industry that you work with, my recommendation is you pick a niche or a group of people that sell something expensive. So think roofers, think realtors, think high-ticket agencies, high-ticket coaches, and basically anybody that sells something that is over $3,000. Why? Because a lead that can potentially buy for over $3,000 is worth a lot more than a lead that is going to buy a $30 haircut or a pair of shoes, right? So I like to work with high ticket businesses because it allows us to charge more money. And most low ticket businesses out there are not making a lot of profit. It's kind of hard to scrape by and be able to pay you a lot of money. So think about it like that. Like if you work with high ticket companies, you could probably charge high ticket. If you work with low ticket company, low profit margin companies, you're probably not going to be able to charge high ticket. You're probably going to have to charge a low ticket price and get a crap ton of customers to get to that same goal, whether it's 10, 20, 30 grand a month that you might have. So we have pay per lead, where they pay per lead, obviously. Next one's pay per appointment. So this is it's just the next step that the lead goes through. So a lead, Micah, to answer your question, a lead by definition is just anybody that has shown any type of intent in either a pain or desire regarding your offer, right? And so if I'm bringing leads to realtors, what we're looking for, what a lead is considered, is simply a homeowner that raises their hand and tells us they have a pain or desire in selling their house, which is the end result that they're getting from working with a realtor, selling their house or buying a new one, right? And so it doesn't matter what way we get them to commit to saying, hey, I am potentially interested in buying or selling real estate. It doesn't matter. So the way that I'm doing it right now is like I'm sending text messages out. And when a homeowner tells us that they're considering to move within the next 3 to 6 months, they raise their hand. They just responded back to us. That is considered a lead. Why? Because they have clearly expressed intent into making a transaction here in the near future. So it doesn't matter if it's somebody that signed up for a newsletter, that's a lead. It doesn't matter if it's somebody that followed you on Instagram, that's a lead. And now there's a whole conversation on like what's the lead quality like, right? Like what's the likelihood that lead will actually go to an appointment and actually show up to the appointment and actually close and pay the business money. And there's a lot of different ways to increase and decrease lead quality. A lot of it is based on friction. So I don't want to lose you here and think this is like some boring stuff, but friction determines lead quality. Easy example. If I ask you a ton of questions, how much are you making? What is your goal? What's stopping you from getting there? Do you have the money to invest to work with us? If I ask you all those questions before I consider you a lead, it's a high friction engagement. What that means is there's a lot of friction from them actually becoming a lead because they have to answer all these hard questions. So if you do something like that, the lead quality will be very high, but the lead volume will suffer. Versus if you have a frictionless type of process, what that means is you might send one message and say, hey, are you interested in buying this thing? And if they just say yes at all, then it's like, okay, we'll consider that a lead. So to answer your first question, anybody that signs up to a newsletter, fills out a type form, those are considered leads. Again, a lead is just anybody that raises their hand. So they opt in on an ad, they opt into a newsletter, they follow us on Instagram. It's just showing intent. They respond to a text. Hopefully you get the idea, okay? So hopefully that answers your first question. Second question, for my offer, which is fully done for you, YouTube. So your offer is you're gonna work with a high-level entrepreneur and basically help them with the ideation, editing, packaging, and posting of their YouTube videos. You said doing performance would be best, but what would that look like? Do I have the same delivery, but I change my guarantee results per different client? So before I dive into this, just to wrap up on the point that I mentioned, we went over pay-per-lead, right? Pay-per-appointment is the next step that a lead takes to get closer to the actual transaction that they're making. So they go and they book an appointment with the business to be able to check out. So these are for higher ticket things, right? You're not going to book an appointment to buy some freaking shoes, unless they're some crazy shoes. I don't buy expensive shoes. That's not my thing. I wear the same clothes over and over again, but whatever. Pay-per-appointment works well as well. I think it works better than pay-per-lead in some scenarios. Like that's an offer that I'm running right now. The reason that I stopped doing pay-per-lead is just one downside that I didn't like is if I send somebody a lead and I charge them, let's say $75 for that lead, and that lead doesn't end up converting, my client will feel like they're burning their money on fire. And they'll come and they'll tell me, hey, Christian, this lead didn't convert. Like I want my money back or I want a different lead. And to its core, never, never, never will every lead convert, right? And so it's also a thing of like expectations. Like if you can set the expectation for somebody and say, hey, we're going to bring you, let's say 10 leads at $100 each. You're going to be paying like $1,000 a month to get 10 leads a month. Expect that maybe one or two actually go and convert. And as long as those one or two convert and there's an ROI on the $1,000 a month they would be giving you, then it makes sense. But if they start tripping out about the cost of every single lead, it's not even a client you should sign on a pay-per-lead offer. Pay-per-appointment is warmer, right? Because when somebody not only shows intent, but they show enough intent to go and set down a time on the calendar to meet, it shows a higher intent of actually purchasing. So you can charge more on a pay-per-appointment offer. Like right now we're charging $150 per appointment that we book somebody. And yeah, just because it's closer to the actual lead conversion part, right? It's lead gen, lead nurture, and the lead conversion part is getting on the appointment and closing. But to go back to your question here, what would that look like? Do I have the same delivery, but I change my guarantee results per different client based on what type of offer they are running? Because some would have a brick and mortar business and some would run info. So first of all, I'd probably narrow down to brick and mortar or info businesses. There's no reason to stay broad, especially if like, dude, there's so many people in both of those sectors. Like you don't need 1 million clients to probably hit your goals, I'm thinking, right? So I'd just probably narrow that down to just picking one and pick the one that you enjoy working with most and the one that you get better results for in the first place. Like result is in pay-per-view. No, I definitely would not do pay-per-view. I mean, like, bro, can you imagine that? That's like being a clipper. It's like, nah. Like, what are you gonna charge $2 for every 1,000 views? Like, it doesn't make sense. And you said it, yeah, it would be stupid. But pay per appointment would be more difficult to track. Not necessarily. Like, I mean, really not necessarily. If you're running a YouTube funnel for somebody and they have a Calendly link in their description, they could just add you as a team member on their Calendly account and you can go and see all the calls being booked, especially if you use a UTM tracker. So this is something that I use. I'm not using it right now, which I should be using. But you could use a UTM tracker right here, and you basically go and grab the link to your sales call. So I'm using Calendly right now, not iClose anymore. And then you could just write in what video they came from and put this as the actual link in the description. So you could actually go and see exactly what video clients are coming from, which is pretty cool, right? So for here, I have like YouTube 1, so YouTube channel 1, where is this link in the description, and then the name of the video they're coming from. And then you could just set up like a quick little Zapier to notify you on what actual video they came from. So you could do pay per appointment, which can totally work. Another way you can do a performance offer, we went over pay per lead, pay per appointment, and another one can just be doing high ticket, but delaying the high ticket until they get the result, right? So there's ways I've structured the offer that work really well. Let's say you're gonna sell this client acquisition system, this AI client acquisition system, let's say. And let's say you want to charge $5,000. One way you can structure the offer is you could say, hey, it's performance based. It's typically $5,000 for 4 months, but how I want to do it with you is we could actually get started for half up front and you only invest the other half once you get X, Y, and Z result you told me you wanted to achieve, right? Which hopefully that result is like money related. So you could say like, hey, once you make 50 grand, you could just pay me the remaining 2,500. That's one way to run it. If you really have no case studies, Micah, you could even say, let's say you want to stay high ticket or just like, charging up front and not performance based. You could simply tell them like, hey, dude, this is going to be a $8,000 offer up front. But the way that we're going to do it for you is I'll actually implement all of this with you. And once you get X, Y, and Z result, then you invest 8 grand. And if you do something like that, make sure you actually get a card on file for them so they don't ghost you when that happens. So I would collect like $1 down just to have a card on file. Obviously, there's still more risk on your end, but it's worth the risk, especially if you can get a case study. So hopefully that answers your question, bro. I like to answer some of these questions. Just started This Is Perfect. And I'm going to get back into the routine of answering questions because I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I think the best offers, pay per lead, pay per appointment, high ticket. I love high ticket. So you could sell a 4-month package to implement X, Y, and Z system. Like I'm selling an AI system to implement this AI system to get you X, Y, and Z results, right? So maybe it's the amount of closed deals, the amount of appointments, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can charge like 6 grand for 4 months. And like that's typically how I like to structure offers, like 6K for 4 months, 5K for 4 months. It depends on the value, right? So you want the value to be at least 10x the actual investment. So I have some offers that are $10,000, and the only way that's possible is because if you pay me $10,000, it's with the expectation that the result we're bringing you is to make at least $100,000 back. And to a certain client, that is easily doable. So that's where I have my $10,000 offer. Now, if you want to make it easier to close, obviously you could add in a risk reversal, which is something like a money back guarantee. And you could simply say, hey, if we don't get you X, Y, and Z results in Y time frame, we'll give you all your money back, no questions asked, right? Or the other way you could structure that is say, hey, until I get you X, Y, and Z results, I'll work for free until I do so, right? So there's ways to structure it like that. I love high ticket. And here are kind of some of the pros and cons that you could think about if you're still watching this. I would say, think about it like this. Pros and cons to pay per lead. Pay per lead is the easiest offer to sell. Why? Because it's the lowest amount of money, right? It's like, hey, it's going to be $50 or $75 per lead that we bring you. It's the easiest to sell. So you will get clients on it. Where the cons come in is you might get shitty clients since you're not paying a lot of money. You're going to get clients that are going to complain about leads and you're going to have to replace them for free. And that's just something I didn't want to deal with. And you're also going to need a lot of clients to scale up unless you can get some big dogs that are getting a ton of leads from you, right? With pay per appointment, pros is it's easy to sell, right? They're just paying for a result for the actual appointment. Cons to pay per appointment. I mean, I would say the only con is that you just don't get paid up front, and you could have a client like back out. Like I had a client that told me like, yeah, let's do like, dude, they wanted a ton of appointments from me every month, and I was doing the math, and it was like a ton of money, and then they're like, wait, put me on pause for like a couple weeks, like I got this thing that I ran into, and it's like, all right, dude, screw me, right? So yeah, pay per appointment. High ticket pros is you make a crap ton of money. You don't need a lot of clients to be able to hit your income goals. If you're trying to make 10 grand a month, you can get there with 2 clients as long as you can provide $50,000 worth of value to justify a $5,000 price tag. Cons to high ticket is it's harder to sell. You have to be better at sales. You have to understand fundamentally how to sell, and you have to be able to build trust with people. So those are kind of the cons to high ticket, and I think most people fail to sell high ticket because they lack the marketing and sales skills to do so. What about retainer, right? We can do monthly retainer. I never sold monthly retainers. If I'm going to sell a retainer, I might as well just, not to say I haven't, like I have, but it hasn't been the main offer. So the main offer for me has always been high ticket. So let's say we're coming up with an offer and we're like, hey, it's going to be $4,000 for the next 3 months, right? And or just for simple math, $4,000 for 4 months. I pitch that, and then if I get an objection and they're like, "Hey, man, I don't have the $4,000," you can say, "No worries. What I can do is I could actually break it up over 4 payments." And then right there, you get the monthly retainer anyways, where it's $1,000 a month for 4 months, and then after that, you re-sign them to continue. So I just stay away from retainer and just leave that as like a fallback plan if they don't have the money to afford high ticket or they don't trust you enough to afford high ticket and pay it all up front. Hopefully this video was valuable. Hope you liked it. And if you have questions, drop them so I can answer them in more videos. Peace.